Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. We're discussing my March reading wrap up. Oh my god, it's already April. There's 7 books to discuss. What is this? Like, I look like I have like a fluff. The first one I read this month, starting off strong, was Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. I actually listened to this book. I think I listened to it for a reading vlog. I don't remember. I rated it a 4.25. I really did enjoy it. It is my favorite of the series. There's one more left of the series. There's 4. It's an interconnected standalone series, and they're cute rom-coms. Basically, this is about a girl named Emily and a guy named Jack, and basically they've always been rivals in the workplace. They're both teachers, and Emily has always had a rivalry slash like hatred for Jack since the first day that they met, because something happened and she was in a terrible mood, and he kind of like hit on her, and she shut him down immediately, and ever since then they've had a rivalry, and they keep trying to one up each other about trying to be like better than each other and whatever, till one day he leaves without saying goodbye because he's engaged to someone else, and they were moving and they were about to get married. He calls off the wedding, so he comes back to this small town. Then they kind of have like this rivalry all over again, but then he ends up helping Emily. Yeah, it was really good. The only thing, if you do listen to it on audiobook, there's a lot of email exchanges at the end of every single chapter. There's an email exchange between the two, and I personally don't like email exchanges if I'm listening to it. I like it if I'm reading it, but if I'm listening to it, it kind of gets annoying because they read every single detail, like time, day, email addresses, yada yada yada. I only care about the thing that they're sending, not what their email addresses are. You know what I mean? I loved it. It was still really cute, and I'm really excited to read the next book. I think it's called In Your Dreams or something like that, and it is already out. I just haven't purchased it yet because I have other things on my priority TBR right now. So next, in the same reading vlog, I've read Hunting Adeline, and this is the second book in the cat and mouse duet. Haunting Adeline and then Hunting Adeline. There are little novellas about side characters in this series as well. I do really want to read them as well. But yeah, so this is the second one. You don't have to read the novellas, but you do have to read these in order. I rated this a 4 stars. It's a little lower than what I rated Haunting Adeline, I believe, but it's only because this one is a lot darker than Haunting Adeline. Obviously, I know that it's a dark romance. I love dark romance. I did not check trigger warnings. I never do, but you should, going into both of the books. I don't really get triggered with things very easily or that often, but like I said, it is very dark, a lot darker, and there are a lot of graphic things happening to our main female character that just like made my stomach sink. And it's definitely not a book that I was able to like just binge. I was only able to read it like for like an hour or two every single day. Like, I wasn't able to like binge the book because of how heavy it was, so it took me a lot longer to read it. And basically this follows along Addie and Zaid, same couple as the first book, and it basically picks up right where you leave off of Haunting Adeline. Something happens at the end of Haunting Adeline, and so they try to fix the issue. So there's 2 different parts. Part 1, you're following along Addie with her experience in this house that she's kind of trapped in, and you follow along Zaid trying to find her and trying to break her out. And then part 2 is them carrying out their revenge. You'll understand if you read Haunting Adeline. I just don't want to spoil the end of that book that much, but yes, I still really loved it, and I'm glad I finally got to this duet because it's been on my TBR for so long. They're also very complete opposites, and I read them in the same vlog. That's crazy. Next, I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This I'm reading for my Throne of Glass reading vlog. It will be up shortly. I just need to read one more book for part 1 there's going to be multiple parts. The first part is the first 4 books in the series, and I just have 1 more left. This can be placed in different positions into the series. It's an 8-book series, but basically the Assassin's Blade, which is a prequel book to the series, can be placed differently in the series, so it can be either first, second, third, or fourth. And so, like, obviously everything else is going to be positioned differently on whether or not you put the Assassin's Blade wherever you want, right? The Assassin's Blade, I'm reading it 4th, so this is the 2nd book in the series for me. You know what I mean? I rated it a 5-star. I absolutely loved it. It was more fast-paced than Throne of Glass, which I really appreciated. Not saying that Throne of Glass wasn't fast-paced. It was a little more fast-paced, and so I really loved it. There was a lot of things going on, and I had like so many theories going on. I literally was writing notes being like, what if this happening, and blah 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 blah. I really did enjoy it. Basically, we're following along Celaena on right after what happened in Throne of Glass. I can't say too much because obviously it will spoil Throne of Glass, but yeah, you're following along her journey as being the King's Champion. And then the boys find out things about Celaena's past, and yeah, just trust me, it's really good. Then I read Too Hard to Forget by Tessa Bailey. I read this for a reading vlog as well, I believe. I don't remember. The reason why I did air quotes is because I DNF'd it at 23%. I read it on my Kindle, and I was not vibing with it whatsoever. About Peggy and Elliot, and basically Elliot is a college football coach, and Peggy, when they first met, Peggy was a cheerleader for the football team and was a senior in college. That's when they first met and first hooked up, and then it goes 10 years later, I believe. Or 3 years later. Yeah, 3 years later, and she comes back for an alumni week. She's trying to get revenge on him breaking her heart. Now, I DNF'd it at 23% because the first chapter was they went back in time to when they first met. They hooked up in the locker room, and he was reciting a prayer because he's Christian. Now, I have no problem with him being Christian. I have no problem with people discussing their faith in books. I have no problem. My problem is you're reciting a prayer while hooking up with someone who's also a student at somewhere that you're working at. But I didn't DNF there. I kept going because I was like, okay, I'm going to try forgetting about it. And then it was present timeline, and then he was thinking about the first time that they were hooked up and reciting the prayer, and I was like, I can't. But then also, he is a father, and he used to have a wife, and his wife died. He had to pull the plug on the wife, and then pretty much immediately after is when they started hooking up in the past timeline. That's also weird. Shouldn't you grieve your wife? And then now he's like not wanting to be in a relationship with Peggy, and the reason why he broke up with Peggy in the past is because if he's dating someone, then he can't focus on his career, which at your grown age, you're almost 40, you should be able to focus on multiple things at once. What about your daughter? You don't want to focus on your daughter? Because he literally said verbatim, like, if I date Peggy, well, not verbatim, but like along these lines, he's like, if I date Peggy, then I won't be able to focus on my career, then it will all have been for nothing. I neglected my family for nothing. What? I've also discussed this before. Tessa Bailey is not an author that I enjoy that much. When I first started reading, I heard a lot about Tessa Bailey. She was all over TikTok, and so I bought a lot of her books. I would say like maybe 5 or 6 or something like that of her books, and every single one of them I've been so close to DNFing, and I ended up pushing through and ended up rating them like 3 stars. And so I had a feeling that it was going to be the same thing with this, or even lower than 3 stars, so I just said I'm DNFing. I'm still going to try the books that I already have, but I'm not going to be buying more of Tessa Bailey. It's not an author for me. You guys can try her books, I don't care. But I feel like a lot of people have thought the same thing about Tessa Bailey. I read God of Fury by Rena Kent. I read this on Kindle, but I also was listening to it on Spotify as well. I was immersive reading half the time, and my final rating is a 4.75 stars. I really did enjoy it. It is my favorite of the series, but the entire series, I would say like all of Rena Kent's books, but I have not read anything past this series, are pretty similar to each other, that they all kind of like just blur with each other. Like, this is the 5th book, and there's one more after, so there's 6 books in the series. The first 4, I cannot tell you what happens in which one because they're all blending together. And this one, I can for sure be like, oh yeah, that happened in God of Fury, because I just read this, right? So we'll see, but I did love it. It's also duet narration, which is the first time that I've ever listened to an audiobook that was like that. This is about Brandon King and Nikolai Sokolov, and basically they're pretty much rivals because Nikolai has a rivalry with Brandon's twin brother Landon, because they go to different schools and they're in different clans, I guess. I don't know. So there's like that type of rivalry until Nikolai sets his eyes on Brandon and is completely obsessed with him and stalks him all the time and tries to convince him that he actually is gay, not straight. And Brandon's like, no, I'm straight. Like, you can't, no. And yeah, it's a whole thing. I really did love it. I actually did cry at the end because something happened to Brandon in his past and it was revealed and he wanted to keep it a secret, and he tried doing something to himself and it was just so sad. But you best believe Nikolai did his revenge for Brandon because that's his baby. No one's doing anything to him. It was really fun. I also did not rate it like a full 5 stars because I was getting kind of like annoyed with the kind of back and forth of being like, okay, we're together, we're not together, we're just a situationship, blah 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 blah. Like I felt like there was like 5 third act breakups. Like, it was like I read an ARC book, which is Blood of the Hunted by Miranda Harvey, I believe. I obviously read this on my Kindle because it was a ARC, and I rated it at 4 stars. It was pretty good. I obviously haven't heard nothing about this book. No one is even talking about its release or anything, so that's why I chose it as an ARC, because I wanted something that is not popular. I will read you what I wrote as my review. I wrote, this book was so entertaining, it was fast-paced and easy to read. The world building wasn't overwhelming and wasn't hard to follow. This is true. Like, pretty much understand what's going on right when you get into it, because a lot of it is like folklore type of thing. Like, all of the mythical creatures are from like normal things, like vampires, werewolves, fairies, witches, yada yada yada, like, you get what I mean. And it was pretty fast paced. Like, all the chapters are pretty small, and also like I think the amount of pages were like 300 or even a little less than that, so it was pretty quick. That being said, there were moments in this book that I felt annoyed with some of the repetitiveness. For example, there was a scene where someone was asking the FMC how she was feeling like 5 times in the same conversation, which felt like it was only added because there was a lull in the conversation, so the author had to add more by asking that question so many times. Now, this is true. Like, there was an incident where our FMC got hurt or something like that, and the healer literally kept being like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" It was like so annoying. Like, she was like, "Are you okay?" and she'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. And then like they would like continue their conversation, and then she would turn to her again and be like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I think it was like 3-5 times that she asked her if she was okay, to the point like even the female character was like, I would really wish that you would stop asking me that question. So it was just like, I don't know, it felt weird. Anyways, this is about our MMC Luca, who is a guardian of a rift, a portal between his realm Wonder and our FMC's Zara's realm, Rosabrook, a part of Earth. And Luca starts falling for Zara, but it's a forbidden romance because humans are a danger to the realm of Wonder, so he must break things off with her until something happens to her, and he must bring her through the rift to save her. The romance was believable. The world of Wonder felt like magic. It reminded me a lot of the movie Halloween Town, so it felt really nostalgic, and I'm excited to see how their journey continues in the next book, which is true. When Luca was introducing Zara to his realm, Wonder, it really did feel like Halloween Town. Like there was even a scene where there was a like hair salon type of thing, and like she was working on different monsters, and it just reminded me of that one scene where like the kids were going into there to get like wolves hair or something like that, like in the Halloween Town. So it kind of like felt a little nostalgic in that way, and I really did enjoy it. Luca is a guardian, and he starts falling for Zara from afar, but then something happens, and so they end up talking, and he falls in love with her, and they go on a date, but he must break things off with Zara because he has to go back to Wonder, and he's not going to be returning to Rosabrook. Obviously, she doesn't know about Wonder and doesn't know that he's a guardian because no human knows about this because they're a danger to Wonder because of something that happened way in the past. But then something happens to her, and he must bring her across the realm to save her. And then they explore the realm and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, I'm excited for the next book. I actually do have the arc for the next book on my Kindle. It's called Heir of the Wolf. It's the second book. Blood of the Hunted is actually out now. It came out at the end of March, I believe. And Heir of the Wolf is coming at the end of April. They were published before, but a different cover and a different title completely. And so she's republishing them with a different cover and a different title. So that's why they're coming out so quickly. I'm going to be reading the second book soon, and I'm excited to continue on their journey. At the end of the first book, they kind of got separated and they can't see each other for right now. So I'm excited to see what happens for them to get back together. And then last but not least, I read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. Now this is the third book in the series. I rated it a 4.75. I read this physically and I really did love it. It's just the beginning was a little slow for me, but obviously we're exploring a new world, and a new place in this world, and that's exciting. And we're going through a lot of different point of views. I was going to say different timelines, but they're all the same timeline, but just different point of views. So obviously we're following Selena, our main girl, but then sometimes it jumps to a different point of view. Okay, we're in Selena's point of view because she's in Wenlin. And then it goes to Kale's point of view because he's back at Rifthold. And then Dorian as well. And then it jumps to a new character called Manon, and she's in a whole separate part of the world. And so we're following along these three places in the same timeline. Does that make sense? Selena is trying to talk to her aunt to try to figure out word keys and word marks and blah blah blah, because that was a big part of Crown of Midnight. And then when we go to, and she's also solving this mystery with a new character named Rowan, of why these demi-fays are just showing up dead. And then it goes to Kale, Dorian, and blah blah blah, and they're trying to figure out the rebellion, try to kind of take down the king, I guess, and figure out things with Dorian that we figured out in Crown of Midnight. And then when we go to Manon's point of view, we're kind of exploring, she's a part of a witch clan, and so we're kind of exploring the witch clans, and they're kind of training with wyverns for the king. Yeah. I am excited to continue the series as well. I do have to read The Assassin's Blade before I get to Queen of Shadows, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't read The Assassin's Blade 3rd instead of 4th. But here we are. But yeah, I didn't rate it a complete 5 stars because the beginning was a little slow, but it could be just because of me, because I have been tired every day when I get home, so I'm not like wanting to read or whatever, so then like I don't binge books anymore, well, that often, and so it kind of can get slow because of that. But anyways, those are all the books that I read this month. A decent stack. How many was there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books, which is pretty much the average for me. I read about 7 books every single month. Sometimes if it's a good month, then it's like 10, 12. If it's a bad month, sometimes 2. Like in January, I only read 2. So I'm pretty proud with myself for this, especially since 3 of them were pretty big books. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.